Johan, do you want to check with Anis and see if anyone's around that might be able to help? Nobody for sure, huh? Okay, sister, I think what we can do, we'll just start the talk. If you can resolve, no problem. If not, that's okay. Maybe this session won't be streamed. Are you able to record it locally without streaming? Okay, so try to record it, then we can always upload it later for those that want to watch, inshallah. And if you can maybe put on the Facebook or YouTube channel that we're having technical difficulty, if there's a way to post that, so the viewers who are waiting know. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sorry for the delay there. Just a technical difficulty trying to get the live stream to work. My name is Sharif Al Arabi. I'm covering both sessions today, inshallah, session 1 and 2. For those of you that are not aware, we've switched the sessions. So session 1 is the Q&A, and session 2 is covering the curriculum, the textbook that we have, which is the New Muslim Guide. Today we'll be talking about our faith, the chapter that talks about the beliefs, and we'll be talking namely about belief in Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and belief in Allah, in one God. Before that, though, in session 1, we'll do a little bit of discussion. We got a question around this month of Shawwal and fasting in the month of Shawwal. Is that an obligatory fasting? Is that something optional? And what are the things that we need to do actually during this month? What are the virtues of good deeds after Ramadan and things like that? So I'll talk a little bit about that now. I'll start off the talk with an Arabic introduction, which is a kind of prayer that we say at the beginning of the class. I'll translate that into English, and then the rest of the class will be given in English, inshallah. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. We start by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as all praise and all thanks are due to Him. We ask Allah for His forgiveness, we ask Allah for His guidance, we ask Allah for His assistance, and we ask Allah for protection from the evil that may be within our own self and from the consequence of any sins that one may have committed. We know that whoever Allah guides, none can misguide them. But similarly, if Allah were to send a person astray, then none is able to guide them. We testify and we bear witness that there is no one and there is nothing that's worthy of being worshipped except for Allah, the creator of all things. And we testify and bear witness that Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is the last and the final messenger of Allah to mankind. I advise myself and my brothers and sisters, as Allah advised us in the Quran, to have taqwa. And taqwa means to be a God conscious person, someone who is constantly striving to do what's good and stay away from that which is wrong. We ask Allah to make us from al-muttaqeen, those who are constantly God conscious. Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, would always remind at the beginning of his speeches or his gatherings that the best of words, the most truthful of speech, are the words of Allah, the Quran. And the best example, the best guidance, the best role model that should be emulated and followed in religious matters is Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. And one of the worst things that a person can do in religious matters is to innovate in the religion, meaning coming with something new, changing the teachings that Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, came with. And this is something, when you change the guidance that the Prophet ﷺ came with, that's considered sinful, and it takes a person away from paradise and towards the hellfire. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that. Okay, brothers and sisters, so alhamdulillah, we completed the month of Ramadan by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And living through the month of Ramadan is a great blessing, because the month of Ramadan is so valued in the eyes of God. The reward for fasting that month is so great. And therefore, any Muslim who is blessed to live through fasting the month of Ramadan should feel very grateful. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, if you fasted the entire month of Ramadan, imanan wa ihtisaban, you did so out of faith, believing that it's a command from God to fast, you did it sincerely for His sake, and ihtisaban, which means you are hoping for and expecting good reward from God for doing so, then Allah will forgive your previous sins. So this is a magnificent opportunity for a believer to reset and to start over spiritually. So now we are in the month of Shawwal, right? And Salamat Hari Raya for all of us here in Malaysia, alhamdulillah. This is the month following Ramadan. So Ramadan is the name of the 9th month. Shawwal is the name of the 10th month in the Islamic lunar calendar. And Hari Raya, or Eid al-Fitr as we refer to it in Arabic, is the first day of that month, the first day of Shawwal. Now in Malaysia, we may celebrate Eid for one entire month, right? But in Islam, that's not the case. In Islam, the celebration and the day of Hari Raya or Eid is only one day. It's a Hari, right? It's not a week, it's not a month, it's just one day. Now, the open house system and going to people's houses and having refreshments with them and visiting them and so on throughout the month of Shawwal, this is culture. It's not really religion. There's no obligation that you must invite everyone to your house throughout the entire month, or you must go and visit every single relative or distant friend and coworker that you have. But if that's something that you want to do for cultural reasons, then there's nothing wrong with that. And of course, you can get good deeds in general for being hospitable, inviting people to your house or visiting them when they invite you. But now that Ramadan is over, what should we be doing? And to reflect on what we should be doing after the month of Ramadan, we have to think about the intent of the month of Ramadan. So Ramadan was meant first and foremost as a spiritual charging point, where you come and you charge up your iman, your faith. And Allah mentioned that one of the main goals of fasting the month of Ramadan was what? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you can achieve greater levels of taqwa. And taqwa means to be a righteous and God-conscious person. So the hope was that you leave Ramadan a better person than you were before Ramadan. And for some people, the problem is the change in Ramadan was temporary. Meaning, in the month of Ramadan, they left certain sins. Someone was smoking in Ramadan, they stopped smoking. As soon as Ramadan is over, they went back to smoking. Or even worse, drinking alcohol. or even worse, fornicating and living in sin with their girlfriend and so on. So the person in Ramadan said, oh, I got to back away from these sins. But after Ramadan was over, they said, no, now I go back. And that means you had the wrong spirit when it came to the month of Ramadan, and the outcome you got was incorrect. As some scholars said, those who worship Ramadan, then Ramadan dies, it comes to an end. But those who worship Allah, then Allah is ever living, He doesn't die. So the God of the month of Ramadan is also the God of the month of Shawwal. He's also the God of the next month after that, Dhul Qa'dah and Dhul Hijjah and Muharram and so on. Meaning, He is the God throughout the entire year. So the way that you behave with Him in Ramadan should also be the way that you behave with Him after the month of Ramadan, right? This is important. So the change that we did, the transformation that we did in Ramadan, the intention needs to be a permanent change. For example, certain bad habits or sins that I gave up in Ramadan, I should intend to continue on after Ramadan and not go back to them. Certain good deeds and practices that I started during the month of Ramadan, I should continue on with them even after Ramadan, right? So for example, praying 5 times a day, it's even more important than fasting the month of Ramadan. It's the first thing that Allah will ask us about on the Day of Judgment, prayer, before even fasting. Many Muslims fast, but they don't pray during the rest of the year. Strange. And in Ramadan, they pray 5 times a day, and they even go beyond the 5 daily prayers. They pray Taraweeh. They pray the extra optional prayers at night, which are not obligatory. So if you are able to do it in Ramadan, then you have proven to yourself what? That you are able to do less than that after the month of Ramadan and just remain with at least the 5 daily prayers. If you can do 20 rak'ahs or 8 rak'ahs at night, extra prayer, then you could definitely just commit to at least the 5 daily prayers throughout the rest of the year. See, in Ramadan, Allah changed the environment for us. The gates of paradise were opened, the gates of hellfire were closed, the angels were there calling and motivating, the devils were restrained and their influence was reduced. So Allah made it easier for everyone to be pious. But during that period, He then proved to us what? What we are capable of. Your true potential came out. So some people in the month of Ramadan, they gave charity every day. They read Quran every day. They fasted every day. They did all the mandatory prayers on time every day. They did voluntary prayers every day. After Ramadan, some people give up all of that. Oof. That's not a good sign. Here, one of the questions was, what are the signs that our Ramadan has been accepted? How do we know if God accepted from us? The reality is no one can know. And that's why we're always striving and working hard, because you have no guarantee. You don't get any certificate in the mail that says, congratulations, you graduated and you are guaranteed paradise. All your sins were forgiven, done. It'll be easy. Then we'll just sit back and relax, and someone will come tell me, give charity. I'll say, no need, I'm already guaranteed, right? No, it's not like that. It's continue striving, continue working hard, don't give up. Scholars said, an indirect sign that God may have accepted from you is that you find Allah making it easier for you to continue doing good. So if after Ramadan is over, suddenly you do a full U-turn and you give up all the good practices you established in Ramadan and you go back to all the bad practices that you left in Ramadan, it's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. Right? But if Allah accepted from you, then Allah will help you to continue on remaining righteous, doing the bare minimum. You are praying 5 times a day on time. You are fasting few days here and there throughout the year. You are giving some charity on regular basis, even if it's monthly or weekly. You are reading some Quran on regular basis, even if it's just half a page or a page a day, right? So you may not be doing things with the same intensity and at the same level that you did in Ramadan, but you didn't give up everything. That's a sign that Allah has accepted from you. Why? Because good, it actually gives birth to more good. It reproduces and it causes new doors of good to open, new opportunities of good to open. Allah starts to bless you and guide you with chances and opportunities where you find yourself almost sliding down the path easily. It just happens naturally, right? One good deed leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, right? You start to meet good people who start to pull you in good direction, and so on, right? And it snowballs until it gets bigger and bigger, faster and faster, and you find yourself one day looking back and saying, "Ooh, look how I used to be. Look how I am now." Big difference in a positive way, right? But similarly, bad deeds, they give birth to bad deeds. So you find one lie leads to another lie. One sin leads to another sin. And it starts small and then it gets bigger and it gets worse until you find yourself one day far away from the straight path. And you say, how did I end up here? What happened? But it was gradual, little by little, days, weeks, months, years. Suddenly you find yourself far away from where you used to be. So a believer is someone who's always very keen and cautious. There's a chance to do good, I do it, because I know that Allah will bless me and it'll bring more good. There's a chance to commit a sin, I'm cautious. Even if it's a small sin, I don't care, because that sin can lead to another sin, can lead to another sin, until I find myself under an avalanche of sins, right? So this is a kind of high-level philosophy that we need to keep in mind as believers, right? A sign that Allah accepted our Ramadan and our good deeds, meaning that we did them really sincerely. We didn't do them to show off, for example. We did them for God's sake. God was pleased with what we did. He saw that what we were doing was sincere. Then He will help us to continue on to do good deeds throughout the rest of the year. Because that was the goal. Ramadan was like a training ground where you were strengthening your soul, strengthening your faith, increasing your patience and your perseverance and your dedication and your commitment, so that would impact the rest of the year. Just like an athlete, for example, they have a pre-season, right? In the pre-season, they go and they do training and they go and have certain matches. All of it is preparing for the real season, right? So too, Ramadan now was a training ground to strengthen yourself for the rest of the year. Not just to be pious only in Ramadan, then the rest of Ramadan, forget about it. We just go back to our normal lifestyle. No, that was not the goal. So now we come to one of the important actions that we can try to do after Ramadan, and that is fasting 6 days during this month of Shawwal, right? So the question that comes is it obligatory? Obligatory means, is it a must? In Islam, we know, we've studied before, actions are different levels. Some actions are a must, meaning if you do them, what happens? God rewards you. If you don't do them, you'll be sinful. The next level is voluntary, optional actions. If you do them, you get rewarded by God. If you don't do them, there's no sin on you. It's okay. They were optional, right? Then there are actions that are haram, forbidden. These actions mean if you do them, you'll get sins. If you don't do them sincerely for God's sake, you'll get rewarded. Like a person chooses consciously not to drink alcohol, you'll get rewarded for that. You choose consciously not to commit fornication or adultery, zina, you'll get rewarded for that, right? So these are sins. And then there are actions which are disliked. If you do them, there's no sin on you. But if you choose not to do them, you'll get rewarded for that, right? These are things that it's preferred not to do. And then in the middle are those actions which are neutral. They are permissible actions, but they're not religious in nature. You like to drink orange juice, drink orange juice, no problem. There's no good deed for that. There's no sin for that, right? So all actions can be categorized into one of these 5 groups. So when we talk about fasting 6 days of Shawwal, people are asking, is it a must? Is it wajib? Is it fard? Right? These are Arabic words that mean it's a must. And the answer is no, it's not a must. It's optional, completely optional. You want to do it, do it. You don't want to do it, it's up to you. But doing it is one of the ways that you are helping yourself and showing God your commitment after the month of Ramadan, right? Because fasting is one of those good deeds. The Prophet ﷺ said, there's nothing equivalent to fasting in reward. Nothing. No good deed that you can do is equal to fasting. Because fasting, every second, every minute of that day you are fasting, you're going to get rewards. And Allah said, the reward for fasting is something that I personally will give to them, meaning there's no way for them to even calculate or fathom how much reward they will get. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, the one who fasted the month of Ramadan has two great joys. One, at the end of the month of Ramadan, when Hari Raya comes and they break the fast and they think about the fact that God will forgive their sins and accept from them and write that they're one of the ones who are saved from hellfire and so on. It's a great thing. But he said the second great joy will be on the day of judgment when they come and God shows them the reward they're getting for fasting. Wow. And they'll be so hot, they'll be so excited, so overjoyed, because it'll be more than they expected, more than they could fathom. So the Prophet ﷺ said fasting is something really good. And he asked us to fast at a minimum 3 days every month throughout the year, outside of Ramadan. But the only mandatory fasting in Islam is fasting the month of Ramadan. That's it. Other mandatory fasting might be exceptional. For example, a person takes an oath and swears, I swear, I promise God, I'm going to fast 3 days. And they made it like a vow and they forced it upon themselves, then it becomes obligatory. But God never asked you to do that. That's only if somebody chose to do that, right? Another scenario where it's obligatory to fast is in certain sins. Certain sins, the only way to be forgiven for the sin and to do what's called kafara, expiation. Expiation means to wipe out the sin, to erase it, to make it like you didn't do it and you won't get punished for it, right? The only way to do expiation for certain sins is by fasting. In some sins, you need to fast only for days. In other sins, you need to fast for months. Certain sins, you have to fast for 2 months continuous in a row, right? That's for specific crimes or religious sins that a person commits. Other than that, the only obligatory fasting for the average Muslim is Ramadan. All other fasting is optional. All other fasting is optional. And there are many types of optional fasting that the Prophet ﷺ used to do. He used to love to fast on Mondays and Thursdays for those that like to fast weekly. Monthly, he recommended we fast at least 3 days a month. If you want to go for the optimal days to fast, then he recommended fasting in the middle of the month. The white days, they're called. They're called white days because the moon is full on those days. And there's a direct correlation between full moon and a person's blood pressure and their health. The moon has a lot of impact on this earth, as you know. It affects the tides, it affects even your blood pressure as a human being and so on, right? So fasting on those days is very good for your health. And that would be to fast on the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th of each lunar month, right? In the Islamic calendar. Like right now, we're about 1 week into the lunar calendar, right? So another week and you get into the middle of the month, which are the special days to fast. So Prophet ﷺ used to love to try to fast those 3 days every month, but you could fast any 3 days. Why 3 days in particular? Now, medically, doctors have found, scientists have found, and this is research you can find published online. I read it on the BBC once, for example, that doctors in the UK did a study and they found if you fast 3 days in a row, and that doesn't mean you go 3 days without eating, no. You break your fast each day, but you fast 3 days consecutively, it actually refreshes the whole immune system. It causes the body to start to produce white blood cells, and it does a lot to improve your health. And now there are a lot of non-Muslims that are promoting fasting as a way of well-being, intermittent fasting and all these things. It causes what's called autophagy, and that is where your body starts to eat the dead cells, the bad cells, the cancerous cells, and all these kind of things. So fasting is very good for your own health. And if you fast Monday and Thursday, 2 days a week, interestingly, another study, and these are done by non-Muslim scientists, they found that 2 days a week helps to stabilize many health factors like your blood sugar, cholesterol, blood pressure, so on and so forth, right? So those who fast 2 days a week on a regular basis throughout their life, then they will find that this has a very good impact. And they found that the two best days to fast weekly would be Monday and Thursday. And this is also discovered by non-Muslims, subhanAllah. So to us, that's only more proof and strength to support the fact that our religion always is asking us to do things that are good for us, good for our health, for our own benefit in this world and in the next life, of course, because of the spiritual reward for it as well. Now, there are other occasions throughout the year that the Prophet ﷺ recommended fasting, right? Like the day of Ashura, the day of Arafah. These are certain days throughout the year that are of significance, and the Prophet ﷺ used to love to fast them. And there's a great reward for fasting even just one of those days. Now, one of the special times to fast is the 6 days of Shawwal. And if we look at what the Prophet ﷺ said, I'll read to you some of the ahadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever fasts Ramadan, then follows it with 6 days of Shawwal, it will be as if he fasted for a lifetime. He'll get rewarded as if he fasted for his entire life, meaning if he does that each year, right? And we'll understand a little bit later why that is. In some of the narrations, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah has made for each hasana. What's a hasana? You know this word? Arabic word, hasana. Pahala? Pahala in Malay, right? Pahala means reward. So for each reward, for each good deed that you do, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah has made for each hasana 10 like it. So a month is like fasting 10 months, and fasting 6 days completes the year. What does that mean? It means good deeds in Islam are multiplied 10 times. And this is from the bounty of God, right? When you commit a sin, how many times is it multiplied? Only one time. It's not increased in any way, right? You will get the sin, what you've done, that's it. But good deeds, God is generous and kind. He multiplies it by a minimum, because in some good deeds, He may multiply it 700 times or more. But in the average good deed, God multiplies it 10 times. So someone who goes to hellfire, who has believed in God, it means they must have done a lot of sins. Because you need 10 sins to wipe out one good deed. Look at how easy God makes it to go to paradise. One good deed is equal to 10 rewards. The sin is only one. So to wipe out that good deed, you need 10 sins. Imagine. And God is so generous and kind, if you intended to do a good deed, then you didn't do it, God will give you one reward. And you didn't do anything, but you were thinking about doing it. Can you imagine? So if you do the good deed, God will give you 10. So the Prophet ﷺ said, when you fasted the month of Ramadan, what reward did He give you? He gave you the reward like you fasted 10 months. If you fast 6 days additional now in the month of Shawwal, what does He give you? He gives you the reward as if you fasted 60 days. 60 days is how many months? We have to do some math. 2 months. You didn't think you were going to do math today in the Islamic class. So 2 months plus 10 months equals what? 1 year, 12 months. So the Prophet ﷺ said, if you fasted Ramadan, add 6 more days. It's up to you, you don't have to, but add 6 more days, then it's as if you fasted the whole entire year, even though you only did 36 days. Easy, right? And even Ramadan sometimes is 29 days, meaning you didn't do 36 days, you did 35, but God will give you the reward as if you fasted the whole year. So this is very easy. Some people throughout the year will say, I can't fast, fasting is hard, it's tiring, I get thirsty, I'm hungry. Okay, but do those just 6 days. Then you'll get rewarded as if you fasted for the whole year. Throughout the rest of the year, the Prophet ﷺ said in each month, you don't have to fast so many days. Some people, they fast a lot. The Muslim maximum they're allowed to fast every other day. And I know some people who do that. Every other day they fast throughout the year, right? But you don't have to do that. That's optional. But the Prophet ﷺ said, at a minimum, do 3 days in a month. We just told you it's really good for your health. That's number one. But number two, if God multiplies it by 10 times, it means you fasted for the whole month. And the Prophet ﷺ found a young man from his followers who was fasting every day. And the man was getting tired. If you fast every day, you'll get exhausted. It's too much. You're not supposed to do that. It's not good for your health, right? So the Prophet ﷺ told him, it's enough for you just to fast 3 days. Why? Because with 3 days, you get the reward as if you fasted the whole entire month. See how easy Islam is, right? So these 6 days of Shawwal, they are optional. They are not mandatory. Now, few questions that come up. When can I fast them? You can fast them as soon as the second day after Eid, after Hari Raya. Why? Because Eid is only 1 day, as we mentioned, not 1 month. And on Eid day, it's forbidden to fast. There are a couple days a year where it's haram to fast. 1 day is now, and the next Hari Raya is 4 days long. It's not 1 day, it's 4 days long. And it's forbidden to fast on all 4 days. The Prophet ﷺ said they're days of eating and drinking and enjoyment, right? So you are not supposed to fast on those days at all. But after the day of Hari Raya, you can fast any day in Shawwal that you want. Do you have to fast all 6 days consecutively? You don't. The Shafi'i madhab, which is followed in Malaysia, they prefer you do all 6 in a row. And they prefer you do it as early as possible. Why do they say this? They say because good deeds should be rushed. Do them soon. Do them as early as possible. Don't delay. Because you never know how long you live. You never know what your mood will be like later. You never know, maybe you get sick. You never know. A million things could happen. And the attitude of the believer is like what Moses in the Quran said. Moses, what did he say? He said, عَجِلْتُ إِلَيْكَ رَبِّي لِتَرْضَى. I came rushing to you, O my God, so that you would be pleased with me. The attitude of the believer is an enthusiastic attitude, not a, I have to do it, lackadaisical, begrudgingly, right? As if somebody's poking you and forcing you. That's not the attitude of the believer. The believer is very happy and excited and eager and keen to do good. So one of the ways you show that is to do it right away. Don't wait. Because if you wait, then what happens? Sometimes you procrastinate. Then you get to the last maybe 5 days of the month and you say, only 5 days left. I can't get 6. Forget it. I won't even do it. Well, you could do the 5 and then do 1 day later. It's okay. Do 1 day the next month. It would be better than nothing, right? So sometimes shaitan plays tricks with us and games with us. So the believer prefers not to procrastinate. Do something sooner rather than later. But even if you did it at the end of the month of Ramadan, it's fine. The days don't have to be all done in a row, nor do they have to be done on specific days. You have the entire month to fast those days. And it may be hard with all the open houses and lots of treats and all that. So choose the days where you find that you're going to be free, right? And it's going to be easier for you to fast. Can you combine it with other sunnah fasting? Like we just mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ used to love to fast every Monday and Thursday. Or he used to love to fast 3 days per month in the middle of the month. Can you double up? Scholars said, sure, you can do that. And they're hopeful that Allah is generous and kind. He may reward you double. Meaning he'll reward you for fasting Monday because it's a special day by itself to fast, right? That's the Prophet's birthday. He was born on Monday and he said, I love to fast on that day, the day that I was born. If you want to, some people love to celebrate the Prophet's birthday. This is the only way you can celebrate it. He used to love to fast on Mondays and he was born on a Monday. So the scholar said you could get double reward. A reward for fasting 6 days of Shawwal, a reward for fasting that day. So there's a statement that says scholars, their business, the way that they profit, is through intention. What does that mean? It means a scholar that has lots of knowledge, they then know how to use their intention to earn more good deeds than the average person. So the average person might fast on that day and not even think about, I'm fasting for Monday because it's sunnah, and I'm fasting for Shawwal because the Prophet ﷺ asked me to fast Shawwal as well, right? So I could get double, as if I fasted 2 days, but I only did 1, 2 for 1. In business, what do you call this? You call this big profit. Oh, I bought 1, I got 2 for 1. Buy 1, free 1, right? But the scholars, they're not looking to make money. They're looking to make good deeds. So they use the intention to get more reward. Just like when you're praying, you can also sometimes have the intention for more than one prayer in one prayer and get rewarded as if you have done more than one prayer. Allah is generous and kind. Um, so, uh, the virtue of fasting 6 days of Shawwal, scholars have mentioned any good deed that we do, it's highly unlikely that we did it perfectly because we are human beings. The nature of human beings is that they make mistakes. So your fasting may not be 100%. You may have lost some reward because in fasting, you should not say bad things. You should not lie. You should not do bad deeds. You should not this, not that. Most people, they cannot be perfect. We are not angels. So definitely our 30 days of fasting may have something missing. And the Prophet ﷺ tells us on the day of judgment what will happen. God will bring you and you will be judged individually, one by one. And when he judges you, he will tell the angels, bring forth his good deeds, and they will go in order with the most important thing first. So they will start with the prayer. And they will say, bring all his mandatory prayers. Let's see the record. And they may find one day you prayed late. One day you missed the prayer. One day you prayed, but you didn't concentrate in the prayer. So you got only half of the reward, 1/4 of the reward, for example, right? So what will happen? Now you're in trouble because this was obligatory prayers. It's no joke. You cannot half-ass it. You have to do it right. So the angels will be told, bring his voluntary prayers. Did he do extra? Okay, bring the extra. Let's fill in the gaps. That can patch it up for him, right? So the more voluntary prayers you have done, the better off you will be. So too, the Prophet said, after that, every other action will be treated similarly. So Allah will come to your mandatory fasting and he'll look at it. Did he do perfect? Nope, not 100%. Some things are missing. Okay, what can we do? Let's look at his voluntary fasting. Did he do any extra fasting? Bring that in to patch it up, right? So these 6 days of Shawwal, it's like immediately after you are saying, oh Allah, forgive me if I had any shortcoming in my fasting. Here's some extra days that I'm doing as well. And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he gave us the formula to be beloved by God and to be blessed in this life. He said there's nothing more beloved to God than the thing which he has made what? Obligatory. That's why he made it obligatory, because he loves it. So the 5 daily prayers, fasting Ramadan, giving the zakah, the minimum 2.5%, these are the obligatory actions, right? Every Muslim should do them. Now, if you love God, you're not going to stick to the bare minimum. Like if you love your wife, and you know your wife, minimum she needs from you is this. Do you do just the minimum? If you do just the minimum, the relationship is in trouble, right? It's not a very good sign. If you really love your wife, right, as a husband, what will you do? You go above and beyond. You do extra things. You do things she didn't expect. You buy her gifts when she didn't ask for it. You say kind words when she didn't ask for it. You go above and beyond to show your love, right? That's true love. So when you love God, then you do for him beyond the minimum. You don't say, I love God a lot, but let me just, I'm not going to go even 1 inch beyond what I'm supposed to do. That's enough. That's not the right attitude with God, right? So the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, then you continue to grow in God's love and become more and more beloved to him, and he becomes more and more pleased with you by doing what? By doing the voluntary actions. So the voluntary prayers, the voluntary fasting, the voluntary charity, the more of those you do, the more you raise in rank, the more beloved you become to God. And you reach to a level eventually, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, where God then becomes the eyes with which you see, the hand with which you grab, the leg with which you walk. And if you ask for anything, he will answer your prayer immediately. And if you ask for protection from anything, he will protect you 100%. What does it mean? God becomes the eyes with which you see, the hand with which you grab, the ears with which you hear. How could this be? Physically you become God? No, of course not. But it means what? It means God then is blessing you and protecting you in all aspects of life. He guides you to see what he loves, to hear what he loves, to do what he loves. He helps you and blesses you and makes it easy for you. and you become so beloved to Him that if you just raise your finger and say, God, make it rain, God will answer your prayer and make it rain. Can you imagine? Not everybody can reach to this level. It's not an easy level to reach, but it's through continuous action, lots of action, that the person is showing their overwhelming love. God doesn't need your prayers. He doesn't need your charity. He doesn't need your fasting. You need it. And you doing it out of belief in Him and love for Him shows that you truly believe. Because the proof is in the pudding, as they say, right? If you just tell your wife all the time, I love you, I love you, I love you, and then someone comes and asks her, does he love you? She said, he never showed me. I never saw any action that proved his love. Never bought me a gift, never did any kind gesture, never did any action of service, nothing. He just talk. Talk is cheap. Lip service, as they say, right? That's it, blah, 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 blah. But where's the proof? The proof comes in the actions. So too, when you claim that you love God, words are easy to say, but action is something different. And Allah loves to see what kind of action? He loves to see continuous actions, even if it's only a little bit. So a person says, fasting is hard for me, I cannot do it. Okay, then go for the minimum. Fast, for example, 1 day a month. 1 day. You cannot, out of the 30 days, find 1 day where it's not too heavy day, not too hot outside, you're not too hungry and thirsty, and you can fast it. For sure you can find it, right? Fast 1 day a month. And then after a while, you do that for 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, a year, 2. Then you say, it's easy, I can do more than that. Let me ask 2 days. After a while, you find that easy, then you add 3 days. See, Allah would love to see the action which is continuous, even if it's a little bit. Some people, they come out of Ramadan, they say, I'm going to fast every other day. And then he cannot maintain. After a week or 2, he said, oh, forget about it, man, it's too hard. No, it would be better for you to start with a little bit and then organically grow and work your way up. Just like a bodybuilder wants to come and work out. Can he deadlift 700 pounds on day 1? Impossible. This is going to take him a long time to work up the big weights, right? He's going to have to work out, but he has to work out what? Consistently. Maybe low weights, but he's working out 5 days a week. And after a while, he's increasing the weight. And after a while, he's increasing. And then one day he looks back months or years later and he says, wow, I used to be so scrawny. And now look at me, I'm Mr. Universe, right? So it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to get to that level. So too, the one who wants to increase their spiritual stamina, it takes time, right? You have to develop that discipline, that self-control, that commitment, but it can be done. It's not impossible to do. Now, we're almost out of time. Another question that comes up in relation to this is, what should I do if I have days of Ramadan that I need to make up? Yeah. So a lot of scholars are of the opinion that you should make up those days first. That would be the most important thing to do before you jump into the voluntary fasting. Why? Because the obligatory fasting is so important, right? And you want to finish it. But the reality is you have the whole year to finish obligatory fasting that you missed. Why would somebody miss their fasting? There are many valid reasons, as we know. Maybe I was traveling, maybe I was sick with a temporary illness, not a chronic illness. Maybe a woman who's menstruating, or a woman who was pregnant or breastfeeding and having difficulty. She has the right to break her fast, right? So all these people, they may need to make up the days. Should they make up the days first? Preferably that is what you would do. Scholars have said, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever fasts Ramadan and then follows it up with 6 days of Shawwal, meaning if you want to get this reward of fasting the whole year, then you need to finish the fasting of Ramadan first. This is where they took it from, these words, right? So if you did only 25 days and you missed 5 days, or a woman had her period, she missed 7 days, for example, then you need to make up those days first, right? Do you have to make up those days in Shawwal? No, you don't. You have the whole year to make them up. Could you fast some days as voluntary fasting in Shawwal and then do obligatory fasting later? Technically, you could. Will you get the reward of this Shawwal? Many scholars said, no, we don't see it that way, right? Until you've finished the fasting of Ramadan. This is the opinion of the majority. Some in the minority said, no, it would be fine. Do that voluntary fasting. We cannot imagine someone like Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, who would wait till the month before Ramadan to make up her obligatory fasting. We cannot imagine that she went the whole year and did no voluntary fasting. Impossible to imagine that, right? Because she was very righteous and a great worshiper. She would have done voluntary fasting on different occasions, like the day of Arafah or the day of Ashura and things like that, right? Allah knows best. Okay? Any questions, any comments in relation to this topic before we close? Brother Johan, can you help me? I think I left my water bottle outside. Sorry about that. Jazakallah khair. Any question, any comment about this topic, what we've been talking about, which is what to do after Ramadan, fasting 6 days? Yes, please. No, I think you turned it off.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Jazakallah khair.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I just want to ask, just briefly, why is the act of fasting, the act of us not eating and not drinking, why is that considered as a good deed to begin with?
Good question. Our brother says, why is the act of fasting, like we don't eat, we don't drink, we don't have sex from sunrise to sunset, why is this considered a good deed? Why is this an act of worship for God? Allah tells us that what we should get out of fasting is taqwa. And taqwa means to become more God conscious and to become someone who's more God fearing and someone who's more righteous. How do we get this spiritual outcome from this physical action? Right? What's the connection? The physical action is don't drink water, don't eat food, don't have sex during the daytime hours. How does this physical action lead to this, right? For some of us, we cannot make that connection. If you think about it, this life is a test. And Allah in this test has asked us to do certain things and to stay away from certain things. To do that, you need what? You need self-control. You need discipline. You need patience, right? Because it's not easy to say no to some of the forbidden temptations and lusts and so on. So when a person fasts, they are going against their most base needs and desires. The water is here in front of me, and Allah is saying, don't drink it. But I need water to live. If my wife came to me and said, go 1 day or 1 week without drinking for me, I would say, you're crazy. No, I love you, but not that much. Don't drink water? I mean, water is the basic for life. Ask me anything else, but not this, right? But when God asks me to do it, I say, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. I listen to your command and I obey it. No problem. So now, if I have the self-control to say no to water, then how much easier is it for me to say no to alcohol, for example, which is forbidden, or to say no to drugs and narcotics and intoxicants that are forbidden, right? Should be much easier. If I can say no to sex, which is lawful with my spouse, how much easier is it for me to say no to sexual relations which are unlawful, like fornication and adultery and so on? Should be even easier, right? So here I'm creating this willpower and self-control, right? This patience and perseverance. Now, if I do this for God's sake, what happens? Now, every time I feel thirsty, I feel hungry, I remember the one for whom I'm doing it. If you go out and I tell you buy a gift for your mother, while you're buying a gift for your mom, you're thinking about your mom. You're saying, my mom is so wonderful. She took such good care of us when we were kids. I want to think about what gift will show her how much I appreciate her, how much I love her. So you're getting closer to your mom by doing that action, actually. It's improving the connection and the bond. So here, when you fast, it increases that bond between you and God. Every time you see the water, you say, oh Allah, I wouldn't give up water for anybody, but for you, I do it. Right? Every time you feel thirsty, you say, God, this is for your sake that I'm thirsty right now. And I won't cheat. Because if you wanted to cheat, you could do it. Nobody will know. You're making wudu, you just swallow a little bit, who's going to know? Nobody's watching you 24/7. Even they're watching you, they cannot tell that you broke your fast. That's why Allah said, fasting is for me. It's a very secret and sincere action. Nobody can know that you're fasting. Nobody can be certain that you're fasting, right? So God said, it's for me, so I'll reward for it accordingly, meaning the reward will be really great because it's not something people can see. When you pray, people see you. You could pray to show off. When you go to pilgrimage, people see you. You could go to pilgrimage to show off. When you give charity, look at me, here's my big check. I'm giving all this money to show off, for example. But fasting, nobody can know. Some people used to fast for years secretly, and their own family didn't know they were fasting because they could hide it. Can you imagine? So, fasting is an action that, if done sincerely and done right, it really increases your God consciousness and your piety, and it really develops these important qualities that you need to have as a Muslim, which are self control and discipline. Because if you look at a lot of people, what happens? Their desires control them and become their God. How is this? Some people, their desires control them and become their God. Allah says in the Quran, have you seen those people who took as their God their own desires? Are they prostrating to their desires? How are their desires their God? The God is the thing which you obey. So some people, they live like an animal. I want to have sex, I have sex. Doesn't matter what the consequences are, doesn't matter who it's with, doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, if they're already married or not, if I'm married to them or not, I don't care. I want to have sex, I have sex. I want to eat, I eat. I want to drink, I drink. Is that thing healthy, forbidden, good, bad? Doesn't matter, right? So some people, they follow their desire, they become a slave to their desire. So some people, they eat to live. Some people, they live to eat. Some people, they eat to live. The Muslim eats to survive. Some people, no, they live so they can eat. He says, I'm a foodie. My whole life is about food. Every day in his social media, here's what I'm eating, here's what I'm eating, what the heck? What is going on? You ate carrots, you ate lettuce, so what? What's going on? It's just something to make you survive. It's not supposed to be the purpose of your life. Food? I traveled far to another country so I could eat this meal. What? That's weird. That's pathetic. This is your purpose in life? Food? Food is supposed to support you to survive, to live, to do. Not, I live and I survive so that I can eat. You understand? So some people, their stomach is in control of them. Other people, their privates and their sexual desires are in control of them. We have a lot of addictions now. People are sex addict, food addict, this addict, that addict. So Islam says you got to break free from that. You need to be in control of your desires, not your desires are in control of you. So fasting is one of the ways that this is established. Yeah? Does it make sense? You can see some of the benefit, inshallah? There's much more we can mention, but we talked a lot about this before Ramadan, right before Ramadan, alhamdulillah. You can see some of the recordings of that as well, inshallah. Okay, any questions online, sister? Nothing? Oh, we're not streaming yet? Oh, okay, we're recording it. Okay, good. Any questions? Anything else? Okay, we'll end there, inshallah, and then maybe take a 2-3 minute break for my throat, and then we'll resume the next class, inshallah. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.